What is up, besties, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Scotty Holiday. I'm a queer creator and a huge Star Wars nerd, so if you're into either one of those things, please consider liking, subscribing, and following me on social media at Scotty Holiday SW for all my latest Star Wars content. Today, Star Wars announced The Mandalorian and Grogu, the next Star Wars film to be released on the big screen, plus we got our first official confirmation of Ahsoka Season 2. And I don't know about y'all, but I cannot wait to talk about this. I sat down with my podcast co-host Austin SWE to describe our initial thoughts on the announcement, what we want to see in the movie, plus what this means for the future of The Mandalorian and Star Wars in general on Disney+, and so much more. Let me know your thoughts on the announcement in the comments below, and I hope you enjoy watching this excerpt of our podcast, This is the Wayseekers. The Mandalorian and Grogu journeys to the big screen. The Mandalorian and Grogu are embarking on a new adventure to movie theaters. Directed by Jon Favreau and produced by Favreau, Kathleen Kennedy, and Dave Filoni, The Mandalorian and Grogu will go into production in 2024, which is this year, if you forgot already. Jon Favreau said, "I've loved telling stories set in the rich world that George Lucas created. The prospect of bringing The Mandalorian and his apprentice Grogu to the big screen is extremely exciting." And then Kathleen Kennedy said, "Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have ushered into Star Wars two new and beloved characters, and this new story is a perfect fit for the big screen." The Mandalorian and Grogu will lead Lucasfilm's ongoing feature development slate, including films helmed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, James Mangold, and Dave Filoni, who is also currently developing Ahsoka Season 2, among those in the works. Which, not only, like I said, did we get a Mando update, but an Ahsoka Season 2 update?
Yeah.
This is exciting.
Entire mandoverse update. It's really cool because I think last episode I was saying how we kind of have no idea where everything's going to go. Is the story about to get wrapped up within one movie? I think this is some of the most shocking news, like I said. I mean, I don't know if that's just because I was just sitting there not expecting anything, opening up Twitter, and all of a sudden it's like, The Mandalorian and Grogu are coming to theaters, and it's like, what? I mean, I can't say it came out of nowhere. I know we've seen rumors in the past of this happening, people saying season 4 is being turned into a movie, and then people were saying, no, that's actually not the case. They're still developing season 4. What's interesting, though, is I saw Deadline kind of have this kind of comment that was passing or throwaway. They said, basically on Twitter, it's not yet been confirmed whether Pedro Pascal will reprise his role as the Mandalorian for the new film. At present, a 4th season of the series is also in development.
That is like the most confusing quote unquote news I think I've ever heard. It's like, Pedro Pascal, we don't know if he's a part of this movie,
right.
But also season 4 is in development. I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw it, because I saw it on Instagram, and at first I was like, oh, are they gonna release like some Mando episodes in the movie theater? And then that's when you texted me and I was like, oh no, this is like a bigger thing. I don't know how I'm feeling about it though.
Yeah, I don't really know either. I think I'm kind of cautiously optimistic. I think that there's a lot of things that could be good, could be bad here, so I don't really know. I do think, though, that with there being a season 4 of The Mandalorian still in development and a Mandalorian movie, do you think it's possible that the Mandalorian show will continue to be Bo-Katan's show, and then Pedro Pascal, the Mandalorian, will be kind of moving to the big screen?
It's something I kind of started thinking about the more I was thinking of what this movie could even be about. And I know that was a big thing with season 3. They had said that, oh, the Mandalorian encompasses like multiple different people, even though like it didn't when the show first started. But I like that idea. You know, when we did our The Good and Bad of 2023 episode, that's something we kind of talked about, is that we liked Bo-Katan in season 3, but if it wasn't for her, season 3 was kind of a flop. So part of me also wonders if maybe this is Disney trying to get Pedro Pascal back physically by kind of waving a movie in front of him, being like, well, we're going to do something that HBO's not doing. We're going to give you a movie to try to entice him to come back, because I think that they want the helmet off again. But like, I really don't think Pedro Pascal is in it anymore. And not physically, but like mentally. I don't really think he's been that into it.
Yeah, his absence was really felt. And I think that you're kind of onto something here. It's possible that this is kind of an incentive to put him back in a movie, something, because this is going to have a bigger budget for less runtime. I'm assuming
Yeah.
the budget's going to be similar to what we've been seeing with The Mandalorian, but
Hmm.
that budget has to cover 8 episodes, so 6 to 8 hours. Here, we'll
True.
have 2.5 hours, and it'll be probably 250 million, which is still ridiculous.
I,
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the budget too, because I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, will they have a movie budget, or is it going to just be the same budget that they've already had? And
Mhm.
will we see maybe less volume
Oh, I hope
usage?
so.
I hope so too. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, are we gonna do some on location? Because if we go back to Mandalore, I want to see a little more depth.
Mhm. Yeah. I think what also is happening here is after season 3 and kind of the reception to it, and also the way that story went, I think that The
Hmm.
Mandalorian is kind of looking for that reinvention, the thing to get people interested again.
That's so true. I couldn't agree more. And the funny thing is, like, if we think about kind of where we left off at the end of season 3, you know, Bo-Katan and the Armorer reignited the Great Forge on Mandalore.
Hmm.
Din was then adopted Grogu, and he was tasked by the Armorer to take him on his journey. And
Yeah.
we also saw that Din is now being like an independent contractor for the New Republic and the Outer Rim. Not a marshal, but an independent contractor. And they've
Yes.
also settled down on Navarro. So it did really feel like a bookend. And
Hmm.
I will say I appreciate that this shows, at least to me, that Disney and Lucasfilm know that Din and Grogu are good characters and they want
Yeah.
to invest more in these characters. Because if they didn't, I think they kind of would have let their story fizzle out maybe for a bit, maybe
Right.
until closer to the actual Mandoverse climactic movie. But
Yeah.
I like that it shows that they care about these characters and that they think that they could honestly have their own movie, because not every
Right.
character that's been introduced with the newer characters, at least in this kind of Disney Plus streaming show era, could necessarily hold their own movie.
I think that this movie is going to kind of help people kind of get set up, because obviously the
Mhm.
whole thing they're trying to do here is recreate the MCU. And, I don't think that they're going to be able to do that, have a huge climactic movie at the end without kind of setting that up beforehand. And I think that this whole movie is just kind of going to be a setup for it. I know you're not a Marvel fan, but Carson Teva, after working with Hera, he's going to send Din Djarin probably on some mission to learn more about what's going on with the Imperial Remnant.
Mhm.
And Din Djarin's going to discover, like, oh, this is real serious, and kind of validate what Hera's been saying all along. And then that's where Carson Teva is probably going to become like the Samuel L. Jackson, kind of the Nick Fury, where he's going to bring everyone together. Him being like, oh, Bo-Katan, come on, Hera, come on, oh, Ezra, bringing everybody together. And that's where we're going to get the big team up in the second movie. So I think that this is going to kind of be the lead up to that. I mean, I know we talked about it's possible that Bo-Katan could be flagshipping the Mandalorian show and then Din and Grogu move to the movies, but I think that it would be really cool for like someone like Katie Sackhoff to be in the movie as Bo-Katan.
Oh,
Like,
for sure.
that would be fucking great. Like just seeing the way Katie Sackhoff, like her career has kind of been at an all-time high lately since The Mandalorian. Like, that
Mhm.
just makes me so fucking happy for her to see her like on screen in a Star Wars movie, in like a movie that has the chance to like break $1 billion at the box office. Like, it just makes me
Yeah.
happy for the cast. You know what I mean?
It is really exciting when we think about it for the people that could be involved with these movies, the people that they have set up and introduced in the Mandoverse. And with Katie Sackhoff, like, I know she's done other things than Star Wars, but like for me, my introduction to her was the Clone Wars animated animated series, then Rebels. Now watching her come into live action as Bo-Katan in The Mandalorian, and just thinking of either her taking over the Mandalorian series moniker or coming into this movie, like there's no way that Din's not going to make a stop at Mandalore. Part of me wonders if they're just going to be like, fuck it, and do like almost a Mandoverse Heir to the Empire trilogy. Because if we think about it, this whole thing's been compared to Heir of the Empire, and I'm pretty sure that book series was 3 books. Part of me also wonders, I'm like, do they actually want to use Zeb now? So they're like, okay, we need a movie budget to have this big CGI character. And
that'd be nice.
I'm hoping that Zeb will have a role to play in this as well. And I think he could also be a part of the link and getting kind of the big team up. Because he knows a handful of people too. And a lot better than Carson.
I will say, though, that I think that if there is like any connections to the second movie, I think that just based on the way they're reporting this movie, there'd be something in the end, probably like an end credit scene type thing, or like the end of the movie, you know. But I think that the main focus of this movie is going to be Din Djarin and Grogu, just based on the way that they were reporting that this is the Mandalorian and Grogu. A lot of people are talking about that being the title. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I
hope
hate
it's
it.
a working title.
Yeah, they're kicking themselves that they can't name it The Mandalorian and Baby Yoda.
Oh my god, Baby Yoda, a Star Wars story. Perfect. So obviously by this point in time, Thrawn is back in the main galaxy. We saw that in the Ahsoka series. But with this movie kind of being the first Mandalorian movie, I think it's a bit too soon for Thrawn to be the villain. So if not him, who do you think could be the villain of this movie?
Yeah, I don't really know. I think that it's possible that it could just be the Imperial Remnant that's in the way. I think that, like I said, I really think that this movie is going to be more about Din Djarin and Grogu discovering what's going on, so that the galaxy and the New Republic is like actually made aware and is taking this whole threat seriously.
Could it be somebody from the Shadow Council? I know a name we hear thrown around a lot is Ray Sloan.
Yeah. If this story and the Aftermath trilogy are meant to be on the same level of canon, it kind of makes no sense for her to not be there. Like, she should have been in that Shadow Council scene.
That was one of the biggest things that I was curious about. I'm like, who could be the antagonist of this film? And
you know who would have made a great one?
Who?
Moff Gideon.
R.I.P. Possibly. Who knows? Maybe that could be the reveal that one of Moff Gideon's clones is alive. I don't want it, but it could happen.
One thing I kind of wanted to talk about, though, is Jon Favreau directing. Obviously, he's been the showrunner of The Mandalorian. He's directed season 2, episode 1, The Marshal, which honestly was a very cinematic episode. Great episode. I'm honestly very excited to see what he does with a Star Wars movie, especially because The Marshal already felt like a Star Wars movie, if we're being honest.
I kind of went onto Wikipedia, not to be confused with Wikipedia, and because I was like, okay, what has Jon Favreau directed? And so when I looked up the movies, I saw he directed Elf. I hate that movie with a passion. Horrible.
Love that movie. Fucking hater.
Despise Elf. I saw he did the Jungle Book live action remake and The Lion King, like you said. Both movies I was not interested in seeing because from what I heard, they were basically just soulless remakes of the animated classics. So, you know, seeing those movies up there being the ones that I recognized, I was like, this isn't looking good for Jon Favreau. However, like you said with The Marshal is such a standout episode, and that being like the season 2 opener wowed me. It was amazing, and I agree, it was almost like a short film. Part of me is wondering if maybe this is Jon's chance to go in and get to do the story that he wanted to do, you know, within the confines of what's been set up already. And then Dave Filoni's kind of getting to do what he wanted to do initially. Part of me was also like, is he getting a movie because they gave Dave Filoni a movie? And so they're like, oh, I guess we better give Jon a movie too, or else he's going to be pissed.
Gotta
like
get
throw
both
a fit.
siblings. Yeah, I agree. I think honestly it could go both ways with Jon Favreau directing, because in Star Wars I feel like he's done really well besides season 3, but like you kind of brought up, I don't really feel like season 3 was 100% his control. Like, I'm not trying to be like
Yeah.
some conspiracy theorist or be like those YouTubers like Kathleen Kennedy took over, because obviously that's not what happened. Kathleen Kennedy has been involved from the beginning with The Mandalorian. That's why she's involved in this movie.
Mhm.
But another thing I'm excited about with this movie that kind of eases some anxiety I've had with the future slate of movies is
Mhm.
Lucasfilm needs something huge for their movie return, and I think they kind of realize that. I love Daisy Ridley as Rey, and
Mhm.
people know I'm excited for that movie. You're excited for that movie
Same,
despite
yeah.
how we feel about the sequels. um I'm excited to see where it goes, but at the same time I was stressing about that being the first movie back. I mean,
Oh my
we're,
god, yeah.
we're already kind of seeing like a huge hate campaign towards it. So I think that no matter what happens, the media is not going to be super kind to that movie. So I think that they need something that's going to be like a huge comeback.
That is crazy because now you're getting me into conspiracy territory. Because if we think about what's been going on with comments made about women in the fandom, with Charmin Obaid Chinoy, and comments she has made in the past that have been taken out of context that people like Ben Shapiro are talking about.
Right.
So I'm like, is this why we've got this little article being like, surprise, we're actually getting a Mandalorian movie because
Yeah.
everybody loves the Mandalorian and we have like no information on it, or at least we're not going to tell you any of it, but we're just going to get this buzz out there. I'm
Yeah.
like, is that why this just happened on a random Tuesday? They're like, let's
Yeah.
stop the Rey movie hate and Sharmina Obaid Chinoy and misogyny.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Mando and Grogu are coming to the theater. Oh, and by the way, Ahsoka season 2 is in development. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, nothing's unintentional with marketing, so I could totally see that. They're trying to get away from the bad press, do some good press. I don't know, though. I wonder if it's working in their favor, if people are excited about this or not.
I mean, I think so. If you think about it, the last Star Wars movie that we saw in a theater was The Rise of Skywalker in 2019.
Mhm.
And despite how that movie was received and how we feel about it, it's just exciting in general as a Star Wars fan.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. This has me feeling super optimistic about the Mandoverse, kind of more optimistic than I felt lately. Like I said last episode, I think a lot of it has to do with just not knowing like what's happening next. Where is this story going to continue? Are we going to have enough time to continue it?
I think they were totally fucked with the whole Rangers of the New Republic issue
Mhm.
and that just kind of
Yeah.
having to get dissolved. So I'm not surprised that they're kind of switching things up a bit, and why we got season 3, which felt a little disjointed. But I feel like, yeah, we're getting back on track.
Oh, totally agree.
So, what do you think about the Mandalorian and Grogu movie announcement? And are you excited for Ahsoka Season 2? Let me know down in the comments below, or join my Discord to continue the conversation together. Make sure to like, subscribe, and consider following me in my podcast at Scotty Holiday SW and at WAYSEEKERS Pod to keep up with all my latest Star Wars content. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.